All right, here we go. Another QA here, October 18th, 2018. Hope you guys are doing good, you know. Got a pencil going today. I'm trying to I'm trying to hold something because, you know, the cards, for those of you who've watched the previous one, you know, the cards, I like to have them in my hand. Because sometimes I talk with my hands too much and people say I talk with my hands too much, and then I hold something and people are like, why are you holding that? And so I'm just like, I don't know what to do. But for those of you that have jumped in and supported the conscious media movement campaign that we recently released, like, this is how people are supporting our work now, because, you know, as you know, our revenues are being cut, you know, our reach is being cut on Facebook. There's a serious attack on independent media, as we've discussed in previous weeks, and, you know, things are becoming quite difficult. So we said, hey, you know what, let's come together as a movement, as a community. So far in the first couple of weeks here, this campaign is going fantastic. It's amazing to see how many of you are already jumping in and saying, yes, let's support this. Let's make sure that we begin to independently support what's going on inside conscious media, because this is hugely important. If you have not yet supported and you feel inspired to, please, please, please go take the second and just click the link in the description that says, you know, here's where you support Collective Evolution, and become a monthly supporter, a one-time donation supporter, whatever it may be, whatever resonates with you, whatever can work, because it's truly helping to make sure that we can hire more people to get this work done, to bring our staff back full-time, to continue finishing our mobile app, which is going to be hugely important as Facebook distribution keeps getting cut and cut and cut and cut and cut. So again, this is wildly important. Again, anybody who like watches these every single week, about 1,000 people, maybe 1,500 people are watching these types of videos. If every single one of those people each week did, and we were able to all support, say with $3 a month, just like it says in the campaign, we would already be able to hire, you know, every single week a new journalist per se. Now, that's not necessarily the case that we're going to hire a journalist every single week, but the point is it's like, that's how powerful our collective numbers can be in helping to sustain overall conscious media and independent media in this space. So thank you so much so far, and thank you if you choose to support. Going on to the question here. So last week's, you know, we've been kind of going over a number of different topics, and we do multiple per each one here. Today I'm going to focus on a key thing. There's a key question that I wanted to spend time on today. And again, you know, I'm known for, you know, saying too much, going too far. So I'm going to try and cover one question today. We're doing one. All right, here it comes. This one's from Thomas from Instagram again. This is an important one, and I know we touched on this a little bit before, but this is a nuance that comes up all the time in revelations of what's going on in our world. So here's the question. How do we handle society and the craziness that is going to be created through declassification of things like ET life, occult rituals, cultural manipulation, and more? Now, why is this such a good question? Because, you know, let's just go back to something that I talk about a lot. I've talked about it for a very long time when it comes to the things that we're going to learn. So the first thing I want to do is this, you know, whether you say we're going through an awakening, a spiritual awakening, a revelation of truth, whether you believe our purpose here is to be beings living out a human experience as souls, right? Whether you think this is all about spirituality or whether you think this is all about the physical world, it doesn't matter. The reality is this. As part of our reality as a whole, there is the spirituality end and the consciousness exploration end. There is the learning of truth, the physical manifestation of our collective programming, the physical manifestation of our thoughts and our patterns and what we do collectively. It's all part of this one thing we call life. And so part of our journey here is not just a transition from 3D to 5D or all these different things that are people being talked about, you know, awakening from one level of consciousness to another, moving from the mind to the heart, right? This kind of stuff is talked about in a number of different ways. There's not just one or two ingredients to this. This is about looking at life as a whole, which means a very key important ingredient, and I believe a lot of people strictly in the spiritual community are missing this, and this is why you know, it sometimes produces questions of, I don't know why the world is the way it is, you know. And the missing ingredient is that we don't want to look at the things that are happening in our world, the truths that are there, the cover-ups that have been there, the manipulation that has taken place, and why all of this stuff has happened, how it affects our consciousness, how it affects the way we live, how it affects the way we evolve, right? It's all kit and caboodle, part and parcel, mixed together. That's what all this stuff is here for. So what I usually say is I say, we're going through a period where we're awakening. And the reality is there's going to be what we call a necessary trauma. And it's like, whoa, what do you mean? A trauma? Why would we want that? Take a step back for a second, right? Let's get out of the emotions, get out of the ego for a second and think, okay, trauma. Why do we use that word? Because we need to explain it. We need to express it in one way. And that's probably the easiest way to get across what it is that humanity is going to go through, which is there's a necessary period of having to realize what is and has been going on for a very, very long time. We can't just skip the process of realizing that, hey, actually our world wasn't just, run by governments and this, that, whatever, and, we voted them into power, right? We can't just skip that process because we miss that very key detail that states this is what our unconsciousness created by us keeping our heads down, not wishing to look and see what's going on, getting too caught up in life and getting too caught up in drama, getting too caught up in all the different distractions that are out there. Produced a state of collective unconsciousness that allowed for certain things to happen. If we don't recognize that collective state of unconsciousness and what has been created through that, we will not properly evolve beyond what that was there to show us. And thus we're going to recreate the same cycle, which is why, for example, we recreate the same cycles a lot in our lives. Whether you want to look at it as society, where we keep recreating the same thing over and over again. It's like, oh, new leader came in, same bullshit. New leader came in, same bullshit, Or whether we want to look at it in our personal lives and be like, why do I keep repeating the exact same relationship over and over again? I come into the relationship, it starts to become emotionally abusive. I get out of the relationship, I start over. I get in the relationship, it starts to become... Why do we keep repeating it over and over again? And that's just one example. There's many things where we keep repeating the same cycles. When we don't learn our lesson, we repeat it again. And we keep doing this over and over and over again. It's no different for us individually as it is collectively. So to think we're going to skip through this process, we're just going to transcend our consciousness and skip through the process of having to learn our lesson that there's been an elite and a cabal manipulating and controlling aspects of our society, of our minds, of our consciousness, and what's been going on here, and that there very much is an extraterrestrial influence involved. It doesn't matter whether you want to look at it as a good side or a bad side, but this is all part and parcel of the whole thing. That all these different things that affect our society that have been either manipulated or have been sort of misconstrued to lead us down a different path. We can't just skip over that, right? There are aspects to humanity that we can call darker or that are dark that we need to look at and we need to face, just like when we need to face the dark night of our own soul. When we go through a process of realizing, oh my gosh, I did treat that person poorly and I have to face that. If I keep defending myself and saying, oh no, this didn't happen, this didn't, and make excuses over and over and over again, we don't realize that we were capable in that moment of potentially, what could look like as, oh yeah, we hurt that person. That's all perception. That's why I set it up that way, right? Because it's our perception of what hurts and what doesn't hurt and whatever. So to not be able to look at what our actions may have caused is not facing our true selves. And again, if we're looking at within ourselves and we look at the collective and we're not also able to do it in that way by saying, hey, yeah, there is a cabal, there is an elite. And when we stayed quiet and unconscious this whole time and ignored it and said, that stuff doesn't exist, nothing's going to change. So we have this necessary trauma. We have this necessary piece to the puzzle where we're going to learn things like there is ET life and there has been a massive cover-up. And it's going to challenge a lot of religious beliefs that, yeah, there is a lot of occult rituals and occult practices and satanic rituals, and there's a whole religion this cabal follows. Again, this isn't new information. This has been out for, 50, 60 years pretty prominently, and I'm sure, if you look back, it goes even further. And yeah, there has been cultural manipulation. There's been manipulation of government, of politics, and that we've just been kind of playing a game that's a bit of an illusion, right? We're going to learn these things and we're going to go, oh my God, I can't believe that's been happening. Like, how are those humans capable of doing that? How did they fly planes into, the World Trade Centers on purpose and do this stuff? Like, I don't understand why they would have lied to us, why they would have done that. And there's going to be a great deception that, I feel so deceived. this parent figure, i.e. government, deceived me and led me astray. Why and how did they do that? Like, you know, I can't believe that. So we need to go through that. So how do we handle, the question here is, how do we handle this craziness? How do we handle what's going on? Well, the reality is we need to stay centered. We need to stay out of extreme polarities, right? Why do we do conscious media, right? For those, and it's going to sound really repetitive for those who watch these videos all the time, we need to remain neutral. We need to be able to look at what's going on out in the world, and instead of classifying it as right or wrong, or this person's an asshole or this person's not, whatever it may be, we need to be able to look at it and go, okay, that's what happened. What caused that to happen? And how can we reflect on that? So whether it be that what caused that to happen was that, you know, being able to look at both sides, being able to truly hear out, why did that person do that? And what happened? How can I remove my judgments of them enough to be able to actually see what their motives may have been? And then where can we look at and say, why did that person want to harm this person? And how can we help this person truly, not just throw them in a 6x8 cell, which does absolutely nothing, but take this person and say, they're part of our society. We need to figure out how to make sure this person actually gets the love, care, and help that they require to make sure this moves forward. So the only way I'm going to be able to see them as a human being and not some evil piece of crap, this, that, whatever our ego loves to just judge and say this person's so evil, how do I look at this person and say, okay, how can I really help them? If this was my son or daughter, if this was my mom or dad, how can I really do that? Removing the illusion that we're all not truly connected here and realize, hey, we are all truly connected here. And I have a loving connection with this individual just as much as I do anybody else once I take my mental perception away from it. So how do I truly help this person? Because this person being healthy creates a healthy whole. And the more unhealthy aspects we have within our whole, the more unhealthy the whole is in general. So to handle this situation, to handle the craziness, is to continue to practice for us early individuals who are seeing the truth out there, who have been on this path for maybe 50, 60 years already. You know, some only 10 years, myself about 12 years, right? We've been on this path of understanding what's going on out there and then shifting, doing the work inside, consciousness, all that sort of stuff, right? You got to do the work. And as we do the work, focus on bringing away the judgment. I'm going to keep this like real concise here. How do we handle? It starts within, right? To handle it means to first make sure when we see what's going on out there, when we see what's happening, if our reaction is to be triggered by it, is to get angry, to get upset, it's to be great. It's an opportunity for us to see what is going on. The key is to catch those things, to catch those emotions as they're coming up and as we're feeling and as we're seeing them. You know, why am I feeling angry right now at this? Stop. Take the time to do the internal work. Before we go, you know, the cat gif bonkers on the internet and smashing away at the computer, calling someone something terrible, just take a step back, go and reflect. Why am I angry? What's going on? What in my perception is causing me to judge this situation, this person so difficultly, so hard, right? Whether it be in your personal life or whether it be about what's going on in the world. Why are we getting so caught up in the politics? Why are we getting so caught up in who people vote for, right? The sunlight's getting a little harsh on me here in terms of the light. I hope it still looks okay. But the point is it's going to start, handling this is going to start with us individually and developing more and more and more what we could call like warriors, if you will. People who are truly in a state of peace and can look at the situations and look at the stuff that's coming out and stay calm. Those of you who watch conscious media and you see this stuff, like, you know, I'll see comments on YouTube and people will say, hey, Joe, you know, you're so neutral, you're so objective in what you report on and what you see. It's like, I'm not the only one. There's many, many, many people who are able to do this, and being able to recognize, you can see I just try and grab my cards there. But people, when we're able to recognize that, you know, this is how someone's coming with their approach, it means that we're capable of it too. And we can see where we may get caught up in stuff. So we got to get to this point where we're able to see what's going on, whether it be in the ET space, whether it be in the occult ritual space, whether it be cultural manipulation, truth about politics, truth about conspiracies, whatever it may be. We got to be at peace with it. When we practice that, we upload that to the collective. Again, how collective consciousness affects our world. We upload that to the collective consciousness, and it changes the way we all begin to view the situations. We all begin to become less emotional, less reactive to everything, and we start really observing, seeing the truth of what's going on. So we got to practice this. That's how we handle it. We practice and we practice and we practice, and we do this individually, and we share that message with others. When we're in a conversation with someone else, we share that same lighthearted, calm, relaxed, non-judgmental perspective. And we don't judge others when they have a different perspective towards it. We simply ask them, hey, have you ever thought about looking at it this way? That's one way to look at it, cool, but there's another way to look at it over here. What are your thoughts on this? And you present the situations to people in a way that is calm, encouraging them to go, well, I never thought of it that way. Because when you have peace over here, and someone is wiling out over here, and this person comes to this person from peace, it's usually the case, I'll say 90% of the time, based on my experience in doing this work for about 10 years, it's usually the case that this peace begins to diminish the anger that's here. It may not get rid of it all completely, but the person is usually not going to get a hell of a lot more angry. They usually calm down a lot, and they may still be emotionally triggered, but they start to see things a little differently, and then they reflect on that experience. So to handle it, we got to do the work, and then we got to go and represent and share and be that way and continue to live that way, and that will spread collectively. And then people that have the ability, right? We begin to resonate differently when we see that there's different ways of going about things. And when we start to awaken, we have a different frequency. And what starts to happen is we start to see through the crap frequency that's over here per se. Again, that's judging it, but this is the way to see it, right? In terms of understanding what's taking place. This lower density frequency that's coming out through the mainstream and people who are really angry and riled up, this lower density frequency, suddenly we're not attracted to it anymore. It doesn't feel good to listen to watch that. So all of a sudden, people are, as more of this information comes out and stuff starts to get heightened, people who are calm and who are relaxed and who are able to present the information to a place that starts to hit people here in the heart, suddenly there's again, not for egotistical terms, but suddenly there's a bigger platform. Suddenly more people paying attention to them. Again, not because it's like, oh, now it's time for these people to get big, but more so because more of the population is going to be guided to listen to that stuff versus being guided to listen to the mainstream stuff or the very aggressive, emotional stuff, which is just a factor of our current state of consciousness, which is shifting, which is why there's more and more and more people becoming interested in this kind of work. So, Carl just meowed real quick there. So yeah, that's the point here, right? This is how we're going to handle it. It truly comes down to us. It truly comes down to practice. So I think I covered it. I think I got what I wanted out there. The final thing I like to say on this, which I know I've said in previous ones, so I apologize if this is a repeat, but it's a good reminder. The stuff that we're learning, right? We're about to release a massive 4-part interview. Massive. Like this is, like we've been excited to release this for about a month, right? And we're very, very excited about this. It's going to dive into a real life case of elite ritualistic abuse, ritualistic pedophilia, and so forth. Like this is going to go dive deep into this, but it does so in a very conscious manner, in a very moved through the process manner. This is an eyewitness testimony that's going to be coming forward here. We're very, very excited about this because this piece of footage is going to be coming from a level of consciousness on this particular topic that just we have not seen out there. I'm sure it is. I'm not saying it isn't, but this is just so powerful. It is so strong. And for so many of us who are having questions, what do we do about this ritual elite stuff? What do we do about that? It's all going to be answered in this interview, right? It's all there. And it's coming from someone who has survived it, who's been through it, and who's evolved beyond the pain, for the most part, that has come from it, right? So very, very, very powerful interview coming up here. I knew this was going to happen at some point. But this is going to be an exciting piece. And again, the point is some of us are going to watch this and we're going to get a little bit like, oh my God, this is tough. Wow, this is difficult to see. This stuff's real. Oh my gosh, right? And then we're going to have to process it ourselves, right? And we're going to help facilitate that process through this interview as well, because this is an important part of the case. We're not just giving the information, we're also helping to facilitate and process that information, which is a huge part to this. So that's going to be coming up soon. But yeah, I mean, I think I covered what I wanted to cover here in this QA. Primarily, like, you know, I guess the final thing is just don't view this stuff as negative. Everything we're learning, it's not negative. It's negative if we get super duper like riled up in it and hold on to that and never process our emotions. Yeah, but it's not when we're simply looking at it for what it is, right? And we have the choice to look at it for what it is or to get super riled up and caught up in the emotions, right? That's our choice. So thanks again for tuning into this one. We appreciate all the support that we're getting through our Conscious Media Movement campaign, which the link is below. Honestly, like the fact that people are diving in and throwing down $3 a month, throwing down $30 a month, or one-time donations, whatever it may be, it is making a monumental difference. Like, for example, already through the support that we've been getting, and it's only been a couple of weeks, you know, we're putting a pretty good dent in our mobile app that we're about to launch very, very soon. So this is helping us immensely not only become sustainable, continue to do this work, get off of Facebook, but create a sustainable distribution platform that will allow us to connect a lot more easily, make sure you actually see the content, you're not waiting for Facebook to get it and all that sort of stuff. So seeing this movement truly come together here and support this is in these early couple of weeks of this campaign is amazing. So thank you so much for that support. And again, if you haven't yet thrown down and you feel inspired about keeping our work going, you know, take the time to do it. The link is below. It truly makes a massive, massive difference. Even the $3 a month makes such a big difference. You know, usually these videos get what, like 1,000 views, like I was saying at the beginning of the video. They usually get about 1,000 views, sometimes 1,500. If every single one of those people jumped in and said, yeah, I'll support for 3 months, we hire another journalist, just like that. That's how simple it is when we come together in a way and start chipping into this movement and making sure conscious media, as we discussed earlier, becomes something that has a loud voice in this space, because it's going to be important as we continue to learn the stuff that's going on. It's going to be important that there are voices that are calm, relaxed, and able to process the stuff as we learn this stuff. Hugely important. Thanks again for tuning in. Carl says, what up? We'll see you next week.